of virtual motorsports is now. This September, the heart of sim racing beats in Chicagoland as the SimGamingExpo takes over the Schaumburg Convention Center, September 5th through the 7th. Go wheel to wheel in our competition area, test the latest gear, meet top brands, creators, and celebrate with fellow sim racing enthusiasts. Whether you're a seasoned sim racer or new to the sport, this is your chance to be part of history. To purchase tickets and see the full exhibitor lineup, visit SimGamingExpo.com.
Live from the suburbs of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at the Wisconsin State Fair, it's time for the Milwaukee Mile 145. That means it's a Wednesday night, and welcome in here to the premier sim racing, SimGamingExpo series. I am Derrick Watson, next to Lucas Moody. Evan Posocco has the night off as he's currently traveling out of the country. And we, of course, got Dustin Ollis pushing the buttons, making us look and sound good down in the production booth. Well, Lucas, here we are, the Milwaukee Mile, a 1 mile track, very difficult to pass, very wild track as it's just about the finale, essentially the penultimate race of our Season 2 schedule.
And you talk about it, it's not the easiest track to pass at, so qualifying is going to be very, very important for these drivers, especially with it being the penultimate race. There's going to be huge championship implications that take place tonight that can lead in some make or break races at Darlington.
I'd agree with that. And of course, next week at Darlington also, we suspect passing and qualifying will be important there as well. But you mentioned those championship implications. Let's take a look at where that stands. Ladies and gentlemen, since week 2 of season 1 of PSR, for the first time, someone other than Richard Regan Jr. has the points lead. Bradley Holly took the lead last week by 7 points over Richard Regan. Steve Baker's back at 283. And then there's James O'Brien, Ted Lowendick, last week's winner, back up to P5. Matt Gagnon, Jeff Evans, Robert Barney, Thomas Sink, and Andrew Sharp round out your top 10. And then we'll take a look at the team points. No surprise here. Regan Bogue still has a pretty solid lead, 643 points, almost 70 points over Whataback Racing. RBM Blink back in 3rd. Solpeck is up in 4th. Miracle Flow, that's where Bradley Holly and his teammates are, back in P5. Tabula Rasa Esports, purple, red, and green. Rapid Theft, Grinds Racing, Tabula Rasa, blue, orange, yellow. And then Regan Bogue Developmental round out your top 10. Well, we want to say here, first off, we're glad you're watching us here on Green Flag TV. And before we get into the coverage of tonight's, we want to go ahead and thank our sponsors who make this broadcast happen. Going to start off with the SimGamingExpo. Wants you to get ready for the ultimate simulation gaming experience. The SimGamingExpo is bringing all genres of simulation and gaming tech under one roof. September 5th through the 7th in the Schaumburg Convention Center in Chicagoland. Please come test out the latest gear, meet your favorite streamers, and connect with a community that lives and breathes simulation. Don't miss your chance to be part of it. Grab your tickets now at SimGamingExpo.com.
Yeah, and then our next sponsor is going to be RD6, Tyler Manning Design 210. Tyler Manning Design brings bold branding to life for esports, motorsports, and everything in between. From striking digital graphics to print-ready designs, we create visuals that turn heads and set you apart from the pack. Want to stand out? Let's make it happen with Tyler Manning Design, built to be bold.
Next up, Palm Rack Golf. Palm Rack Golf blends classic style with modern fit. They're designed to move with you from the office to the course to wherever else the day takes you. Timeless looks, everyday comfort, all in one. Palm Rack Golf, made to move, styled to stand out.
And to wrap up our pre-race sponsorships, it's Outlap Motorsports. At Outlap, it's not just about horsepower and lap times. It's about the people behind the wheel. They're in the paddock, in the pits, wrenching late nights just like you. Whether you're chasing tents on the stopwatch or just trying to clear your head on a Sunday drive, Outlap's got your back with honest support, real tuning, and a true love for the motorsport scene. And here's the real talk. Motorsport is more than a hobby. For a lot of us, it's therapy. That's why Outlap proudly sponsors men's mental health and encourages drivers to check in with each other on and off the track. Fast cars, real talk, Outlap Motorsports.
And last but not least is Window Nation. Window Nation is recognized by Forbes as the top vinyl window replacement company in the country. Their energy-efficient windows are designed to keep homes cool during the summer and warm throughout the winter. And they all are proudly made in the heart of the USA. With expert installation and an industry-leading quality, Window Nation is the smart choice for any window replacement project. Well, there you go. I want to thank all of our sponsors again for helping put on this broadcast and this race on a week-to-week basis. And well, here we are, about a minute left in qualifying. We'll take a look, see who's on track. There's going to be that red car. That's James Morgan in the black and red, the 12 car coming through the track here. Lucas riding pretty low, and we'll track out here out of the corner and get a run down the front straight.
Yeah, and as you see, that Chevy Silverado takes that low line, which is by far going to be the ideal line for these qualifying laps. When we move into the race, we might start to see some outside lane get some action as that inside lane maybe heats up, or if you're trying to go for a really risky overtake around that outside, maybe even throw the person on the inside lane off of their track. But for qualifying, inside lane will be the king.
P11, where James Morgan lined up at the lap 1, a 30.799. A little bit of wiggle out of 4. Can he beat his time? He does not, just slightly higher, 38.05. That'll leave him in P11. 10 seconds left on the clock. Do not believe anyone else is left on the track. So that means we can go ahead and take a look at tonight's starting grid. We'll go and load up the Profit Python starting grid, and we'll call them off in spots of 10. So Bradley Holly takes the pole here, a 30.499. I get a little distracted by Brad's picture and forgot my words there for a second. Teddy Lowendick is in P2, last week's winner. Moving back into P3, Jeff Evans, part of Miracle Flow Motorsports. In that 51 truck is next to James O'Brien, back in P4. P5 is Mark Kalin, part of Soul Peck Precision Racing. He'll line up next to the 79 of Trace Paderni. P7 is Doug Evans, also with Miracle Flow. A good up front run for 3 of the 4 Miracle Flow trucks here. And then next to him is Matt Gagnon, back in P8 in the 14 truck. P9 is Dustin Bumgarner in the 16. He's next to Zachary Burnt, back in P10.
And then starting in 11th will be James Morgan of Tabula Rasa Esports in that purple, red, and green team. And then just alongside him in 12th will be Nicholas Saraf in that 67 machine. Then just behind them in lucky number spot 13 is the 816 car of Nicholas Acosta. And next to him will be the 23 of Brett Adams. Starting then in 15th position will be Matt Scherf in that 43 Toyota truck there. And in 16th, right next to him, will be Jacob Watson. And then just behind them will be the 27 car of Steve Loving, lining up alongside the 89 of Zach A. Williams. And then to wrap up your top 20, it'll be Mike Toomer Jr. in the 42 car, lining up next to the 3 car of Jacob Dunn.
Moving back into P21, this is Stacy Hunter. That's the last truck to take a time on the grid. And then we'll go ahead and call off the names that did not get a chance to take a time. Some of these due to penalties and other reasons. Flo Doms, Brandon Walter, Kyle Dewey, Evan Williams, Thomas Sink, Nick Byer, Blaine Adams, Doug Rice, Brian Tope, Nick Schwartz, and Nicholas Hunter. And that will round out a 32 truck field. That's a look top to bottom of tonight's Profit Python starting grid. So Profit Python is where every second counts, both on the track and in the world of deals. That's the edge that Profit Python delivers. It's the ultimate Discord for deal hunters and side hustlers, with lightning fast alerts on price drops, secret sales, and hidden jackpots. So before the rest of the world catches on, you can first. The race to profit is on. Scan the QR code on your screen to join now. Profit Python. Strike fast. Profit faster. Well, here we go, getting lined up here on our pace lap, and We'll get ready to go to green. It's got a little bit of time here left on this. And before we focus on tonight's race, we should also take a look back at last week's race. It was an incredible race won by Ted Lowendick. It was an incredible race where we saw side-by-side racing all week long. You'll see those photos there. They're courtesy of Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. You see lots of great battles, some contact last week at Richmond, some beaten, some bang, some tempers, and some lots of exciting action all night long. You know, sim racing is full of unforgettable moments, and Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography can help you capture them all. From first wins to fresh liveries to heck, even the crashes you'll never forget. Mr. Hedge turns virtual racing into memories worth sharing. They're clean, they're sharp, and they're made for sim racers. Visit mrhedge.co.uk to get your best iRacing moments in focus. Well, I think focus is an important word here, Lucas, at a track that's hard to pass at a track that's loose off the corners. The focus likely to be a key word all night long.
Yeah, you talk about those facts. Also the fact that you have to drive so close to these hard impact, very, very heavy walls. So yeah, just keeping your focus, especially out of the corners, as you said. And you know, it's one of those tracks where you drive so close to the walls that really 1 second of lost focus and that could be your race done just like that, especially in a league where there aren't any fast repairs.
Yeah, no fast repairs tonight, of course. Remember, 75 minutes on the clock once we go green. So that will determine how far around we go. One more time, this is it. We're going to say, let's go racing. Green flag is out as Bradley Holly leads us around. Well, it didn't take long for your first 2 or 3 drivers to find themselves in the single file line. Right now, Jeff Evans was under attack a moment ago, but that has since come down here. And now you'll see that Mark Kalen's backed up behind Jeff Evans. And here we go, down the back straight.
Yeah, and in a race where there's the fuel tanks are so heavy, are so long, you have like just about 75 laps per fuel stint here. Tire saving is going to be a very key impact of this race, especially if we get long green flag runs and it stays cautionless. Which of course around a track like Milwaukee in the trucks where it's very loose, long green flag runs maybe aren't too, they don't happen as much as maybe some other tracks, but I definitely know there are going to be drivers that are playing the long game and saving their tires, trying to hope they can attack by the end of the stint.
Well, under attack right here. That's Mike Toomer Jr. He's under attack by the car down below. And the pass has been made. Toomer will go down a spot. And we'll keep moving. That's Evan Williams who made the pass there in that white, purple, and black machine. On back, you see some 2 and 3 by racing. There's a returning Flo Doms up top in that multicolored truck. He'll try to get around Stacy Hunter. And he'll make the pass down the back straight here possibly. So lots of good racing up and down the field so far at Milwaukee. Flo Doms passes Hunter. Now he wants to put Mike Toomer Jr. in his radar.
And it does seem that although the drivers are loving this inside line, overtakes can be done around the outside or down the inside as well. So if the car behind has more pace than the car in front, there's a multitude of options for that car behind to get ahead, as we've already seen passes around the outside and passes down the inside.
Passes everywhere so far, up and down the leaderboard. Lots of ups and downs, green arrows, red arrows. So some good passing happening already. Watching back here with Kyle Dewey to see what pace he can make here tonight in this race. But meanwhile, back up front, Bradley Holly has really got Ted Lowendick all over his back bumper. Teddy's trying to be a menace to Brad, trying to make his presence felt as they come out of turn 2.
Yeah, and you talk about making your presence felt. Putting pressure on the car in front of you is a factor that not a lot of people think about when they're watching racing. If you're able to be very big in the mirrors of the car head, if you're just able to stay in their mind, just that presence really is that much more pressure that they feel, and that just little bit more of pressure can force them into a mistake that, that just might be able to open up the door for an overtake. So Ted Lowendick, even though he has to stay in the dirty air by staying this close, just putting that pressure on him is really, really effective.
Yeah, and of course, if there's one driver that may not be shakeable, it's Bradley Holly. Over 200 lifetime career wins in iRacing and leagues specifically. So has his has his fair share of moments right here, but Lowendick's still close. Look at that. I mean, less than 0.2 of a second. On back, it's Jeff Evans and Mark Kalin right at the same gap right there. Kalin tried to dig a little bit deeper in the corner to Evans. Evans gets a slightly better run up off the corner as Kalin nearly scrubs the wall.
Yeah, and it even looked like Kalin, with that draft, might have been able to go for a move here as he takes a tighter line here.
Woo.
Might be able to look for a run down the main straight here. Just not going to be able to find the speed, but he's going to maybe even send a dummy into one. He sends it in.
Definitely sent it in there, got on around Jeff. I think Jeff actually said, hey, listen, go ahead. If you want to send it in there, be my guest. And then we come up off of 2, about 5 minutes in to the race here as Blaine Adams, pardon me, not Brett. Blaine is super slow, has some required repairs. He's going to come down and fix. I think it's going to be from hitting one of those walls that was discussed earlier. We'll wait and see if we can find that moment here. But meanwhile, back up front, it's going to be Bradley Holly still leading us on around. It's Holly, Lowendick, Kalin, your top 3.
Yeah, and you talked about it. Looked kind of like Jeff Evans let Mark Kalin have that place, and that is probably just what happened. If you know that Jeff Evans is tire saving, he doesn't really want to fight a car that he knows is pushing out his tires too much.
Whoa!
So big slide in the wall for 32. That's a replay, I believe.
That is a replay of what happened to Blaine Adams, and I'm not sure. One of two things happened there. Either he got super loose and that car wiggled, and I think that's what happened, or there might have been a little bit of netcode. But the way this track behaves, I'm not convinced that wasn't just a wicked slide out of a corner that caught him up into the wall.
Yeah, it looked to be that he was in a battle with, I believe, the 19 car ahead of him. And when you're in a battle, you're pushing your car to the limit. You're thinking, I need as much drive out of this corner as I can possibly get. And just a little bit too much pushing, little too much of that loud pedal, and unfortunately puts himself into the wall.
Yeah, went up to the outside wall, has his required repairs, so he'll be down pit road. Let's see if he makes it out this evening to continue this race. Meanwhile, up front here is Bradley Holly, Ted Lowendick, Mark Kalin, Jeff Evans, James O'Brien. Up your top 5. Trace Perdurny having a solid night up, by the way, up in P6 so far. But as we begin now to watch this race go on, what we're going to start to notice here, Lucas, is right now it doesn't seem like there's a lot of passing happening up and down the field right now.
Yeah, I know we talked about this a little bit in the pre-show. Milwaukee is a track that is not is very, very hard to pass just because of the fact it's very tight. The inside line is pretty meta. And, the fact that you get loose off corner, it just makes overtakes scary. Really what you have to do around here is you have to set yourself up really well, multiple corners advance, try to send it on the car ahead of you, see if you can get the slide job pulled off, and that's really the only good way to pass around here.
Yeah, so wait and see as the night goes on. Maybe some tires will wear. The track will rubber in, and it'll get more interesting as it goes on. Here's a pass, by the way. This is a pass right now deep in the field. This is up just ahead of Kyle Dewey. And this is going to be between Evan Williams and Zach Williams, the black and purple truck versus the black and purple truck. And we'll see which one's going to come out right now. I believe it to be Evans up ahead of Zach. And they'll come on around here. So a bit of moment right there. Kyle Dewey's trying to close in. Mike Toomer wants to close in. But they're going to come out okay here. Here's Doug Evans getting passed by James Morgan. Morgan now wants to get that spot. Morgan just put him up in the top 10. That's Doug Evans on the outside. That's Dustin Bumgarner on back behind him. And I think Morgan might try and clear it here into the corner.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to his contacts.
Wow, feels like Morgan had to check up, and Bumgarner almost just ran him over from behind.
Yeah, that could have been absolutely catastrophic, but luckily the 16 able to get on that brake pedal just in time to not put the 12 in the wall. And as we're saying that, the 12 makes a brilliant move there.
Yeah, you mentioned the word slide job earlier. That might be the textbook definition of one. But the 12 just pulled here on Doug Evans. Here's the moment we saw a second ago. That's Bumgarner. I'm not sure if Morgan checked up or if Bumgarner sent it in or a bit of both. But that was almost a moment right there.
Yeah, and we talked about, once again, that inside line. One of the reasons it's so strong around here is because this track has barely any banking. It is a 9-degree bank. So if you think about that, you know, Daytona, they have these 30-degree angle plus bankings, and that's what allows those cars to carry so much speed around them. But only 9 degrees here on the tippy top of that outside. That outside line just doesn't give you enough speed. Just doesn't give you enough speed to be worth it to take that whole long side around the track. So just a little more information about why the inside line is so good here.
Yeah, we'll wait and see how that plays out as the night goes on. This is the battle right here for 6th and 7th. That's Trace Paderni and Matt Gagnon. Gagnon's trying to make his presence felt, trying to get a bit better run out of the corners to see what he can make happen here. So Trace really having a stellar run so far. He had an unfortunate week at Richmond. Really just kind of felt like a pinball all night long, banged around. Funny enough, in the Stewards Report, he just kept being the victim of all the wrecks, and very little stuff was actually, you know, noted to be Trace's fault. So a wild night. Here's a wild ride as well. This is Flo Doms and Brandon Walter. They're side by side, and of course, in those Mr. Hedge photos we saw last week, there was a little bit of a tussle between Brandon Walter and Doug Rice. They seem to have put that aside as Walter almost got way to the side with that wiggle out of 2. But Flo Doms makes the pass here back in the field.
Yeah, he was able to get around the 99 in that case. The only other way to overtake, besides going down the inside, is just to see if you can get your car around, kill the momentum of the car inside. Because obviously, that inside car, if they're not able to ride up all the way to the wall, they're going to lose a lot of speed and a lot of momentum on the corner there. So you saw just how much more speed that passing car had on that inside car, and that's another great way to get the move done. It is probably, in my opinion, harder than this slide job, just because getting alongside someone and staying there throughout an entire corner around the outside requires a lot of precision, and a lot of understanding how your opponent drives to do that.
Right on the screen right here, we're going to take a look at the 171 of Nicholas Schwartz. He's trying his best to get around Jacob Watson. This is the battle for P19 and P20. And you talked about words such as precision, understanding, and I think all those are coming into play right now because it's the precision of Schwartz to get in these corners and not slide up that's making him competitive. Of course, they got a car right behind him back in P21. That is Evan Williams, I believe, currently, yep, on the back bumper. So this is a battle that Schwartz has won, at least for the moment.
Yeah, and going back to the word focus, for those guys up in the top 7, top 10 that have all really single filed out, their entire race now at this point is just solely focused on the word focus. And Acosta looks like may have had a bit of an issue.
Team on team action, maybe. Let's watch this. It's to be Doug Rice and Nicholas Acosta side by side. Acosta got a little loose out of the corner. That thing wiggled like a goldfish, but he's okay. Well, at least the car's okay. He might be a little upset.
And I even see some rear end damage on the 816 machine there of Acosta. So I wonder if that damage had to do a little bit of why his rear end got a little bit wiggly there. I just didn't expect that loss of rear downforce caught him off guard on the exit of that corner.
Yeah, like at some point that Acosta and someone else had a disagreement about braking points, I would have to guess, and Acosta would have got rear-ended in the process. Here's Matt Gagnon up in P8, by the way. He's dropped off. He's let Brett Adams get on around. So Brett's now, of course, the best running Adams in the race after Blaine's unfortunate wall hit earlier. Brett makes the pass for 7th, and Matt Gagnon's trying to catch up here. But, whoa, look at that big slide by Adams through the corners. It's almost like a weird reverse diamond Adams tried to pull off there.
Yeah, to me, it just looked like he went too deep on the brakes. I think Matt is really, really getting in his head here. As you can see it, the 23 is sending it down the inside, braking really late. I don't know if he's trying to overdrive the entries or if he's just scared of the car behind, but if he keeps this up, he's going to really burn out his front tires And if this continues green, which it looks like it will be, he's not going to have much left by the end of the stint.
Well, we'll see if that holds true. Back through the field, here's Doug Rice on the inside and Zach Williams on the outside. And they're side by side. Now, here's what you talked about earlier. It is fun to try to pass on the inside, but what's going to happen to Doug Rice right here? He's going to pull up. Oh, he is going to make the pass to be clear, Zim. Oh, he did, actually. I was going to say, but sometimes when you're the car on the outside, you can kind of kill that run. You can be in the way and kill that momentum, but Zach Williams not able to, and Doug Rice in that number 35 truck will pull on around. So a good move there for Doug, and that's going to put him up to P25. Doug up 4 spots on the evening.
Yeah, and the name of the game for that inside car is clearing that car on your high side. If you're able to get past, put your car right in front of him, pull that slide job off, as we have talked about multiple times. The only place they can go is either straight into your rear bumper or try to pull the over-under on your inside into the next corner. And that's the goal of this inside line. As I said, that is a name of the game. Hoping you can clear yourself and being, at Bristol, just all the short tracks, you'll see some really aggressive moves that are very, very close, very, very tight on exit. But that's what you have to do, and these drivers know how they can race themselves like that.
Yeah, speaking of close and aggressive and tight off the corners, Kyle Dewey, Jacob Watson right there in that moment. Watson to the outside, Dewey in the black and blue, number 33. Dewey is going to try and just kind of lean on this. This is what we talked about earlier, where Watson's not doing anything on purpose. Just by being the outside, it prevents Dewey from tracking out all the way, and it kind of kills that run. Dewey falls on back. Watson moves forward, and they'll continue on in this race. 15 minutes in, already working lap 29. That's how fast this track is, about 31 seconds a lap. So that means if we stay green here, Lucas, for 75 minutes, we're talking roughly about 145 to 150 lap race here under green.
Yeah, I would be really excited to see some green flag pit stops. It's not all the time you get those, especially around short tracks. It can get pretty chaotic, with where drivers will break, when they'll pit, what different strategies come in with the undercut and the overcut. So when you get a cautionless race, as we're having so far, I don't want to jinx anything, it's much more of a strategy race instead of a race for position, race to full push. You might have your favorite on. If you'd rather have the strategy, you'd rather have the all-out fighting the entire time. I find both of them very, very highly enjoyable. And if it continues like this, we're going to have the former, where it's a lot more strategy, a lot more when to pit and how to pit.
Yeah, from what I heard from some drivers who did some testing yesterday, it turned to sound like a fuel run was about 75 to 80 laps. So this could end up being a one-stop race, depending on how well you manage your tires. But up front right now, this is Trace Paderni. This is P6, 7, 8, and 9. Paderni, Gagnon, Brett Adams is up there in the middle. James Morgan is back there. So this is a great battle happening here on this track. And this track, of course, been around a long time, Lucas. It's a track originally built back in the early 1900s. Originally was a much shorter dirt track before it became the paved oval we know it as. And of course, back in the 30s and 40s, this track had a football field inside of it. This track is the host of the Green Bay Packers from the 30s to the 50s. And they called it, very fitting for Wisconsin, the Dairy Bowl.
Nice. Yeah, as we know, those Wisconsiners, they love their cheese, they love their dairy.
Cheese or milk, yeah.
But you bring up a really interesting fact that kind of sparks a memory. The fact they had a football field in the middle of a racetrack. I feel like a lot of people that aren't racing fans don't understand just the sheer size of these speedways. Think about Daytona, think about Indianapolis, think about even Talladega. They're absolutely massive. I love seeing the image. It floats around every time in May when the Indy 500 is about to appear. We have a huge battle here between the 9 and the 19 here. But I remember there's a photo where they fit all these sorts of things inside of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Porsche tracks, the Vatican City. Just like crazy things.
Yeah, it's amazing how big these fields are. So, by the way, of note, as we come around again, you'll see it here on your screen while watching this three-way battle with Toomer, Watson, and Hunter. This right here, the start-finish line, perfectly lines up with where the 50-yard line was in the football field.
Nice. That's fun little tidbit of info there, which makes sense. If you're gonna build grandstands, you're gonna want to hope that those grandstands are center for not only the racetrack but also the football field.
Yeah, and it feels like that trend's sort of coming back, right? We're seeing some of those trends of sports at racetracks. Right now we're watching Nicholas Acosta and Zach Williams. This is the 816 and the 89 battling. Acosta's right there in the black and orange, Williams in the black and purple. Acosta's going to pull off the run here, just down the straight. You get a better breaking in. He should clear him right there. And yeah, he will. He'll get him clear here. But I was going to say that trend's continued, of course, at Bristol. Now we've seen, you know, the attempt at the Major League Baseball game this year. We've seen college football games, you know, at racetracks, including Bristol. So it's kind of fun to see people really, you know, tracks trying to kind of embrace other things in the calendar when not racing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Bristol race because as a Cincinnati native, I am myself a pretty big Reds fan, have been for a long time. And they were one of the chosen teams, along with the Braves, that got to play at that Bristol Bash, I believe they called it. I know a lot of my friends, even one of my former teachers, drove down to Tennessee to watch that game just because it was like a really big moment, you know, NASCAR, baseball coming together, two loved American pastimes. Just a combination of those brought a lot of fans and a lot of audience members into the track.
Yeah, it certainly did. On screen right here, by the way, we're looking at James Morgan and Matt Gagnon. Morgan back in P9. You get a feeling for his throttle inputs here. Watch him just really kind of pepper the gas pedal through the corners. He'll be on at full strength here. Under green, I don't expect these drivers ever shift out of fourth gear. But down in the corner, look hard in the brakes. And he'll start to pepper the throttle, trying to find that exact moment when that car has rotated and he can get back on the gas.
Yeah, he's using a really interesting approach here. I'm not too familiar with the trucks, so I'm more familiar with the next-gen cars, so I'd probably drive it a bit differently in that. But look how he's braking, coasting for a very long time throughout that corner, and then almost instantly gets back on the gas. And a lot of drivers will do that. They'll instantly get back on the gas. It really kicks their rear end in, you know, gives them a lot of instant rotation midway through the corner. So the strategy that James Morgan there is using, and I'm assuming a lot of drivers are using. And although it can wear down your rears over time, that instant rotation that you get from your rears does help your fronts out in the long run as well.
The other thing I'm watching to see some drivers try to get some rotation. Watch here through the corners. You can see the 43 does it again. Hold on, caution's out for the first time. About 20 minutes in. Mark Kalin slow on track. We'll wait and see if that is, in fact, part of the cause of the caution here at Milwaukee. Watching the replay of Mark Kalin by himself. Comes up the corner, loops it around the first time, spins it back around, just missing the inside pit wall. Parks it on the start-finish line, and the yellow flag is out.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised iRacing threw a caution there. I guess because there's no real apron at this track. He never technically got off of the racing surface. And since there were cars behind him approaching at racing speed, a great job keeping out of the barrels there, may I add. Yeah, iRacing did throw a caution for that one, which kind of shocked me.
Caution is out there. By the way, that's an opposite reaction to what you saw on Saturday during the Velocity Online Racing. Mark at least avoided the barrels. We had an Indy car on Saturday eat the barrels. That was a wilder moment we saw live on Green Flag TV. Well, here we are under yellow for the first time. It's Holly, it's Lowendick, it's Evans, O'Brien, and Paderni, your top five. Everyone down pit road. Now remember, in this league, we are going to get limited sets of tires. 4 sets of tires for the whole race, but I bet after 40 some laps of racing, everyone puts on 4 fresh tires.
Yeah, you talked about it. They've been racing for over 23 minutes at this point, if my math is correct. And that's a long time for these tires. That's a lot of corners. And we know that, especially these drivers at the front, they've been pushing their tires pretty hard, you know, battling for position. Just track position is key at a lot of these racetracks, especially around Milwaukee, where it's very hard to overtake. Catching your opponents off guard, off the restart. That's what a lot of these drivers did. It probably hurt a lot of their tires. So most of the drivers, if not all, I believe, are going to come down pit lane and take 4 fresh new boots.
Yeah, look, everybody there, 14 tires. A couple of notes on pit road. Here's the 14 and Matt Gagnon. He'll miss his pit stall and have to back it up and get in there. The other big story, look on the outside a second ago, Jacob Dunn in the 3 car missed his pit stall. He went down pit road. He needs to come back down a second time. So you saw him win the battle off of pit road. Technically, not necessarily the case. He'll come back down by himself. He'll move to the back of the line.
Yeah, that's rough. Of course, where your pit box is, it's not one stable thing that you keep through the whole season. It is depending on where you qualify. So from 1 week to next, your pit box could be a completely different spot. I remember, there'd be a week I qualified top 5. I have to wait down the entire pit lane to get to my pit box. And the very next race, I crash out during qualifying or I hit the wall or something. I'm starting all the way in the back. I miss my pit box just because I don't expect it to be so early. Probably happened to the number 3 there.
Very likely could have. Well, lights on the pace truck are out. So very quickly, we're going to be back to green flag racing. Holly chose the inside lane. That bets Teddy on the outside. Then it's going to be O'Brien, Paderni, Mark Kalen, by the way, up to P5 after that spin. So he'll be back up front here as we're about to go green flag racing. The pace truck is down. It's in the hands of Bradley Holly, and we're green flag racing. Well, boy, oh boy, that jump right there on the restart seems predictable as what we've seen all season long. Holly gets a great jump up off the corner and into the corner, but James O'Brien's right there, ready to pounce.
Yeah, that's one of the huge advantages of starting on point in these iRacing restarts is you get to pick when they go. Once you hit that Geico restart zone, iRacing leaves it up to you. And you're just able to go whenever you want, and because of that, he's able to get a great jump onto Ted Lowendick. So much so that he actually got passed by the 38 of James O'Brien.
Oh, there was some 3-wide racing in the back. I saw Zachary Burnt involved, Kyle Dewey, Brandon Walter was back there. They've worked it out to 2x2, but that was a wild moment. 3 wide at Milwaukee is pushing what you have to think is possible, but all's worked out for the moment. Bradley Holly still up front under attack by O'Brien, by Paderni, by Ted Lowendick and others. Trace Burning up to P4, a season best for him, by the way. So having a great run, want to call that out. Let's watch a replay of the start. This is the great jump we saw from Bradley Holly. Oh, look behind. There's Paderni kind of wiggled the car. Mark Kalen up there as well. And oh, there's a bump from Lowendick. So this start, while it looked kind of calm from the first TV camera view, not as calm as I thought it was.
Yeah, so that could be how O'Brien was actually able to get past Lowendick. Since he had that inside line starting in 3rd place, probably later on the break sent it in there, and that's why he got the little shove mid-corner from Lowendick. Since O'Brien sent it in, he's going to have less speed coming out of the corner. Lowendick probably didn't expect that. Since he's carrying more speed, gives him a little bump. Luckily, nothing too bad came out of it in that circumstance, but just something to keep an eye on. When these drivers send it down the inside, they're going to be much slower than the drivers that broke a little bit earlier.
Well, here's a pass attempt from Jacob Watson on Brandon Walter. Watson dug it into the inside. He's going to try to make the run. Walter kind of slowed off the corner. Watson does clear him. That's a pass for position. That is a pass right there for P19.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like it's quite done yet. Jacob Watson still fighting Walter. Walter's broke really late going into, I believe that was turn 3, and he's still side by side now. No, this is now turn 3, side by side still. Watson really needs to get clear, find that slide job. Here he does, because if that battle went on a couple more laps longer, that's really going to start not only hurting your time, but hurting your tires as well.
Well, speaking of Watson and that Tabula Rasa Esports car, if we make this sort of connection between teammates up front, Trace Paderni, that 4th car in line, that black, yellow, and white car, just set the fastest lap of the race at 30.690. So he is trying to charge his way to the front and make a point. Meanwhile, behind him, Jeff Evans, Mark Kalen, they're fighting pretty hard. They're your first side-by-side battle. Kalen, of course, involved in that caution, had that spin. Seems to be okay. And I thought he was going to clear Evans, but not quite yet.
Yeah, and you'll see how that inside car will kind of pull ahead coming into the corner and throughout the corner. But as the corner keeps going on and going on, 23 of, oh, sorry, it's going to be the 62 of Mark Kalen. He's going to gain that momentum back, gain that kind of position back, and he's going to have a better run down the main straight. But a great move, great slide job there for Jeff Evans, putting him into the top 5 position.
Evans made a great move. You saw the carve Adams right behind him. Brett Adams tried to make a dig to the inside of Mark Kalin. Couldn't quite make it stick. He'll back it up. And now as we get through this moment, I see at least our first 8 or 9 cars in a single file line. So things have kind of calmed back down for the moment at Milwaukee. And we're back to single file racing. Mark Kalin wants to make the move though. Look at him digging in the corner. Now right there, I noticed Lucas, he does not track out all the way. That likely cost him some speed.
Yeah, that's probably why he wasn't able to go for too big of a move there, because didn't carry enough speed to the corner, didn't have enough on exit. Once again, he does it there. I wonder if he's doing that to try to avoid the dirty air of that 51 machine, or maybe he's just not wanting to carry enough speed. You know, one way to save your tires really well is simply just drive slower. So maybe he's just not pushing the car all the way to the wall and just trying to hold back a little bit, maybe pounce on Jeff Evans a couple laps later.
Yeah, we'll wait and see what could happen from that. You see there Evans, you see Kalin, you see Adams further back in the shot. You see James Morgan and others. So this race is not far from over. In fact, it is far from over. It's got about 45 minutes left in it, and everything has kind of calmed down. But you know, if you are enjoying that up front, you can enjoy this moment back here. This is Doug Evans and Flo Doms. And Doug Evans would look to make the pass. They're about even door to door down the front straight. Doms gets the lead up the front straight. Evans gets it by digging in the corner, and they're going to swap this position back and forth a little bit, I think.
Yeah, maybe though. Flo Doms, that 113, was able to stay relatively alongside, so since he will have the better run, since he was able to stay alongside, that will catapult him ahead. The only way to not get overtaken as the 41 car of Doug Evans there is you really got to make sure you pull ahead of him in the corner, so that when you're on the exit, when he gets that burst of speed that the outside lane gives him, he doesn't get fully clear. Unfortunately, on that circumstance, Doug Evans was not able to pull out in front of him, and since the 113 car was able to stay side by side, that boost of speed he got in the exit was able to full clear him to get that pass done for 13th.
Yep, speaking of full clear, James O'Brien still full clear of Ted Lowendick, and both these guys are starting to lose a bit of time on Bradley Holly. Now about a little more than half a second back from Holly to O'Brien. O'Brien, that black and red with the Premier on the back of it. Ted Lowendick with the gummy cluster in the front of his truck and the bright green racing gloves. Remember, he won last week at Richmond. He kind of found it humorous in his own way that he sort of made it happen. He did not walk in that race thinking he had a shot, but surprised himself in the field by winning. Well, here we go, riding on around now down back the front straights, and Ted's having a nice calm run. You know, if you're having fun watching this tonight on Green Flag TV, I want to let you know you can watch us now 7 nights a week. That's how busy the channel is, how active we are, and we're grateful for all of you for tuning in. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. You'll know when we go live. But here's our schedule. Look at this. Right now, the Beer League kicks off pretty soon. They're over at COTA. That's Nolan Ripple, Finicini. Tomorrow night, I'll be back for the Average Joe Sim Racing League. We're going to Echo Park Speedway, or Atlanta if you prefer that term. Then Friday night, or also tomorrow night, the Speed Series with Nolan Ripple goes over to Daytona International Speedway. Friday night, Nolan Ripple will be alone at Gateway for the Bolt Series. Saturday night, myself and Lucas will be back here at Atlanta for the Sim Racing Association. Then Sunday, it's a doubleheader. The Blazing Pedals League at Las Vegas and the For the Boys Car Tomorrow League at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. So it's a full week here, Lucas. No matter what night you want to find racing action, you can even look very far right there. That was Mark Kalin. He almost ate the back end of Jeff Evans.
Yeah, he's starting to get really, really racy here. I think he knows that Jeff Evans is playing a more tire-saving game, that strategy of trying to attack at the end of the stint, and I think Mark Kalin's just about fed up with it. I think he's ready to get past him, and I think he's ready to start attacking the 79 car. So I would not be surprised if we see the 62 get really aggressive here.
Yeah, I don't want to overstate the word aggressive. I would not call either of these drivers aggressive per se compared to maybe some other drivers we see, but of the two, I think it's fair to say Mark is probably the more aggressive of the two. On a typical week, Mark is known to shoot big, and you know, sometimes it works and sometimes he finds himself a little bit short on the strategy, but It feels like Mark has the run. And that's what happens at a track like this. When there's no passing, you can feel like you have that speed, right? Like, hey, I should be around that guy. You kind of get almost maybe indignant would be the word you want to use about it, but you just can't quite make the pass.
Yeah, that's a thought that happens in these drivers' minds a lot. I know that I've thought that so many times in the past before. It's like, I should not be behind this guy. You almost start getting mad at yourself. Like, why can't I pass him? Why can't I outpace him? He's like, I know I'm better than him almost. I don't want to put it so harshly, but you do start getting mad at yourself, and that's not a great mental situation to be in. So part of things that drivers have to do is you have to completely take all of those thoughts out of their mind completely and put yourself on even level playing field.
Okay. Sorry, I thought Burnt was going to maybe get a little sideways there from that camera shot, but it might have just been the shot from the camera. Mark Kalin is tired of waiting. He wanted to take the dig to the inside of Jeff Evans, could not make it stick. That put Trace Paderni a little closer. This is, by the way, the battle on track for 4th, 5th, and 6th position between these three trucks, and that's what happens sometimes, right, is that when you miss that shot, Lucas, you sort of welcome other challengers to the arena.
Well, I almost wonder if both cars got past Trace Paderni, because I believe he was in 4th just a couple laps ago.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. I was up ahead.
So replay that as we do right here. So I think just Jeff Evans sends it on him, maybe catches Paderni off guard, and that opens up the door for Kalin. He says, "Thank you very much."
Yeah, Paderni is stuck outside. Evans stuck his nose in, and it was sort of like a little choo-choo train going on around. And look at this right here. Evans cleared him, and it took Kalin a little bit longer to make that pass. They'll come down here into 1. Kalin dug it in deep, and I think Paderni's kind of realized it and said, hey, it's not worth it, man. Like, we're 40 minutes to go. I can back it up and live another day.
Yeah, and it comes back to the word of the day, focus. Trace Paderni loses focus for literally 1 corner. Just allows Jeff Evans to get on his inside for only 1 corner, and that drops him back 2 positions. So once again, showing how important focus is around these short tracks, and especially around the mile at Milwaukee.
Speaking of focus, James O'Brien and Ted Lowendick would love to focus on the back bumper of Bradley Holly, but this is for 2nd and 3rd. The problem is how far away P1 is. That is 1.3 seconds. So that is up there pretty far ahead.
Yeah, and we go back to that word aggression we were talking about as well. We talked about how Kalin Evans, they're not too aggressive. One thing I did notice when we were on Lowendick's onboard is the 54 makes an early pit stop here. Don't know what that's about, Derrick.
That is a little early, isn't it, right? We just pitted back on lap, 42? Currently working 66. That's only 24 laps. Even by commentator math, that's a little early.
Yeah, but going back to Ted Lowendick, when you're on his onboard, we could see his pedals. He was really aggressively hitting the brakes, aggressively getting off them, and very aggressively getting on the throttle the same exact way. And we might be able to see it here. Look how he absolutely floors it coming out of the corner. I think that goes to show you that he is really trying to push his car to get past James O'Brien. He's probably tired of waiting up. He knows he has pace to keep up with Bradley Holly. So once again, it talks about that mental frustration that you get behind a car. You know you're quicker than. And I think that's playing to Ted Lowendick's pedal work here as it's getting very, very aggressive.
Yeah, it looks like maybe aggressive might be what happens as drivers get impatient. Of course, as these tires wear on, we're about halfway through the run of where we were when that caution came out, so everything should still be kind of calm. We've not broken any new ground as far as a stint length or anything for these drivers yet, but we're watching here as this moment rides through. A great run by Holly, great run by everyone so far for the most part. Let's take a look and see who's up the most spots as this race has progressed so far. You'll see them pop up, and we'll walk you through a couple of them here. Big notes: Brett Adams up 8 spots, Nicholas Schwartz up 16, Flo Doms is up there plus 10, Kyle Dewey, Steve Loving. So lots of good numbers up the field. The opposite way, by the way, Matt Gagnon's down 13 on the day, Nicholas Acosta down 14, Zach Williams down 11. So that's the flip side of the good news. There's always a little bit of bad news for a couple of different drivers.
Yeah, and you talk about Matt Gagnon. We saw he qualified in the top 10, had that top 10 pace. But if you go back, remember that replay we saw, really unfortunate event of him completely missing his pit box. Had to reverse it, back it up through like 5 or 6 cars, it looked like. That was a lot of time lost in the pits, and therefore a lot of positions lost as well.
Going way wide up top is Trace Paderni, as you saw that moment there. He let his teammate James Morgan go. On behind them is Dustin Bumgarner in that black machine with the white trim lettering, and they're now in a line, the 12, the 79, and the 16 here as we go around the track.
Yeah, and we saw that Trace Paderni, he was up there at 4th at one point in the race. So maybe he just pushed out his tires a little bit too hard, and maybe that's starting to catch up to him. You know, of course, we saw that how he got passed by 2 cars in that single corner, but now all the way down in 8th, he's going to have to start playing defensive, and that's also going to tear away at his mental. You know, the fact of you dropping like a rock through the pack, that really, really has an impact on a driver's mental game and just on how they think about the race overall. So he's going to have to snap himself out of it, drive confidently, and believe. I don't want to say believe in himself, that's so cliche, but believe in his driving ability is almost a better way. The 23 gets really wobbly there.
Wow, he's talking more about the word believe. We're going to have ourselves a little Ted Lasso moment if you keep that word going around there. But going around the track as well, we see some more battles. Right here is 27 is Steve Loving, Flo Doms. They're battling out. That's right behind that 43. The 43, by the way, the classic Richard Petty look this week. So a nice look there for Scherf in the 43. But right now is Flo Doms trying to find his way around here. Now, Flo Doms, a very, very recognized and very accomplished road racer, has tried out oval racing for the, at least in a premier sim racing for the first time. Saw a bit of wiggle right there. So Flo's really having a bit of a, I would say, introductory season, right? It's sort of what you'd expect for someone who is brand new to ovals. There's a couple ovals that maybe benefit a road driver such as Pocono, because he just had a wild slide like he was at a road course right there.
Yeah, looks like he's going wide, drifting off the track at road courses. And funnily enough, Derek, you probably don't know this, as someone that started as a solely road driver and, kind of like, I don't want to say got forced into ovals, but really wanted to start taking on the ovals with my college. I 100% get where that 113 car Flo Doms is coming from. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about that later on tonight.
By the way, right there in the replay, you'll see that's the pass that happened a few minutes ago. That's Ted Lowendick. He's taking back second place from James O'Brien. Went ahead and made a pass to the inside there. And now, here we go. So 34 minutes left to go on the board. It's Holly, Lowendick, O'Brien, Evans, and Mark Kalin, your top 5. Here's a battle. This right here is Matt Gagnon in the 14. And Jacob Watson in the 9. Watson way up top on the top shelf of the racetrack. And Gagnon makes the easy pass.
Yeah, and once again, talking about Matt Gagnon, kind of following his storyline, we know that he has top 10 pace. We know that he has the ability to fight these cars up in this top 10. So he's going to want to try to cut through that midfield as quickly as possible so we can get up to racing the cars like Trace Paderni, like Dustin Bumgarner for those top 10 positions.
The race continues. Mark Kalin earlier. Remember, we saw him spun around earlier, and a beautiful recovery from Mark up there in P5, battling right here, trying to hold off Brett Adams for P6. I think right now this race has calmed down. Of course, right now, remember, we pitted back on lap 42. It is now lap 76, so we're getting pretty close here to basically as long of a stint as we had the first time. So we could get to a moment here, Lucas, where tires may be wearing and just at a different state than what these drivers are used to under green.
Yeah, and this is kind of where we see what drivers saved and what drivers didn't. Unfortunately, drivers like Trace Paderni, that he has that fastest lap. It shows that he was pushing, had really good pace early on in the stint, but that's caused him some late race turmoil as he's now falling through the pack. Other drivers, probably like Flo Doms, who we've seen make a lot of moves, and I'm sure we'll start seeing them appear, but the 99 gets very, very loose there. Might be able to keep the 74 at bay, but it's going to be difficult.
Watch this move here from the 99. He's going to get it almost looped around. You see that back end come around. Credit to Walter. He got it in the grass, got it to settle, and still a little loose. But, I mean, credit to him for not slamming that car back around. That's your typical first instinct as a driver sometimes, is to want to throw the car the other way and save that car. But that could have been much, much worse for Brandon Walter had that happen. On track, this is Nicholas Schwartz. He's trying to make a pass now. This is going to be a bit back in the field, and he is trying to get around Nick Saraf here. This is for P13 and 14. And, oh, buddy, there's some leaning, some beating, some bumping. That might be the most contact we've seen in a long time, and it may not be over.
Yeah, looks like the 67 was hoping, I should say, that Nicholas Schwartz would go a little bit more down to the inside of the track. Expecting him to go down that far, he also turned in as much, and 67 even gave Schwartz a bit of bump mid-corner, saying, hey, turn all the way to the bottom, please. Make both of our lives easier. Let me race you hard, but if you want to race hard, you got to turn your car down to the bottom. You got to give me the space up top here.
Yep, so that happened right there, and now we're all good and back to normal race. But boy, that bump right there between Schwartz and Saraf, that's been, I don't want to call it a highlight, but that's been a highlight of a pretty low contact race.
Yeah, the fact that that little contact is what we're talking about, it almost feels like we're Formula One casters. You know, the slightest bit of wheel tap or the slightest bit of rear wing that flies off, we're getting like all crazy at it, we're going nuts over it. But in a race that's not had a lot of overtaking, and you know, we haven't seen cars go over the catch fence like we saw that, like we saw in Velocity just last weekend, or we saw at the Brickyard just last night. Those kind of smaller moments is what we focus on.
That's true, and the fun of racing. Well, let's do this. Well, hold on. I was about to do our Miracle Flow team update, and here comes our caution flag. Kyle Dewey up top, turned backwards. Makes me believe that's a piece of evidence of the caution. So here we go. Dewey's got it turned around. It has it working now the correct way. We'll take a moment, watch the replays. Here's Kyle Dewey. He's been behind Doug Evans. He gets it loose off the wall, way to the bottom, way to the top. Gets hit by Zachary Burnt, and around he goes.
Yeah,
well,
it just looks like got a little bit loose coming out the corner, hits the wall, sends me even more loose, and just not able to save it.
We mentioned we went about 42 laps the first time. We're going to be about that same number the second time. Watch it from Burnt here. He thinks he's good. That car's way down there. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm not good.
Yeah, that classic case of, you know, clear, 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 clear. Watch out, watch out, watch out. And by the time that you're thinking watch out, it's way too late.
Way too late indeed. Well, went about 42 laps the first time. We're going to go about that same number again under green. So we would have to think right now that if we stayed green the rest of the race, we'll do probably less laps than that. So here we go. Pit stops for the second time. Watch everyone come down pit road. Again, I suspect to see 4 tires and gas. Lucas, is anyone brave enough to try 2 tires and try and take the lead?
Well, that would be a pretty risky strategy. Interesting strategy to get the lead. I think it's still a bit too early. With 5 or 10 minutes to go, I think that is definitely on the cards, definitely on the table for the drivers that want to play the gamble. But with still half an hour left in the race, we still got a long time to go, and you just don't know if the left tires that you put on 25 minutes ago are going to take you to the end of the race.
Well, it's something everyone agreed with you with the word risky, the word you used first, because no one did it. Watch these battles off at pit road. Everyone, look at those timers on your screen. 14, 15 seconds for some drivers, 18 for Matt getting some damage fix. We might have one taker. Let's watch out for Doug Evans and see if we can catch a glimpse. His pit stop time, only 10 seconds in the box. That sounds like 2 tires, and that's up to P8 for Doug Evans.
Yeah, and I hinted it just a little bit earlier, but we talk about, you know, those left side tires were the ones that they'd have for 25 minutes, and they're the ones that they're not going to change at this pit stop if they're only taking 2. Even though these drivers are turning left.
We're going to watch this with Doug Evans right here. We're going to watch the right sides go up and watch the right sides go down. Let's see if the left sides move at all. I don't think they're going to. So we're already double filed back here on at the start. I was going to try and grab Doug Evans and talk to him, but that's how fast your pace laps are. It's hard to do those interviews under caution here. So we'll see if we can get a word later with Doug Evans, but there it is. So someone took the chance, put him up to P8, so we'll keep an eye on that. But the first thing to keep an eye on is going to be Bradley Holly, Ted Lowendick, James O'Brien, Mark Kalin, Jeff Evans, and others, because that's the front of the field. For the 3rd time tonight, the iRacing Pace Truck will make the left-hand turn here down the Milwaukee Mile. He'll come down and he'll put the pace and the control back in the hands of Bradley Holly. Holly has led all night long. The green flag comes out. Barney the flagman waves the flag, and Holly is back in the lead.
Yeah, and Lowendick once again gets caught on that outside lane. James O'Brien is going for the pass again, but Lowendick just might have him on this occasion. He does, not wanting to be stuck behind him for an entire stint all over again. Drives it outside line, very, very nice, and stays ahead of the 38 on this occasion.
Look back on your screen. Jeff Evans and Adams are side by side. Now it's Adams and James Morgan. Adams is falling back through the field a little bit here. So Evans is clear. Morgan wants to get clear. May not this time by through turns 1 and 2. Morgan, the black and red truck on the bottom of your screen, has teammate Trace Paderni coming up on behind him. And this is your first side-by-side battle in the field. This right now is for P7, P8.
Yeah, and speaking of Trace Paderni, he is one of the drivers that is thanking the Lord or whatever God he believes in that the caution came out when it did, because we know he pushed his tires very heavy at the start of that last stint. If that stint kept going on to the end of the race, he would have kept dropping and dropping and dropping. So the fact it came out when it did kind of stopped him in his place. He's in 8th place, and now he can start pushing those tires again and maybe even make up some places ahead.
Saw Nick Seraph a little slow through the end of the corner there. I think he's got it back under control. See Zach Williams might have been a little slow through the corner. Here's what happened to Nick Seraph. He's right in front of Matt Scherf in the 43. Got down to that bottom line, almost into the grass, maybe into the grass actually. And look at that. I mean, Walter goes by, Rice, Toomer, and more go right on by. There's Watson, there's Hunter, there's Acosta. And so it just felt like a parade going by for that truck.
Yeah, and Derrick, if I turn your attention to Doug Evans, you know, the only person that took the 2 tires that last pit stop, down from 8th to 15th position. So really, really struggling on just those new right sides. We have a car spinning in the back.
Oh, that's Mike Toomer Jr. in the 42. He is backed into the wall there. And we'll see, I suspect from what we kind of saw from that camera angle live, I think there's more to this than Toomer getting loose. Let's find out. There's Toomer. He gets bumped by Jacob Watson. And Toomer does a pretty good job. He checked that up pretty good. I don't know if he actually hit the wall. I thought he backed in there based on the first camera shot, Lucas, but I think he did okay there by keeping off the wall.
Yeah, hit those brakes nice and early. I don't really think either driver's at fault there. I believe that's a racing incident. In my eyes, you know, the 9 wanted the space, the 42 wanted the space. I don't think one driver drove into the other. I just think it's 2 drivers fighting hard, or maybe even a bit of 3 wide action with the 19 car. It was, I believe, below both of them.
Yep, I would agree with that. We'll wait and see what comes to that. Watson has claimed the fault for the wreck in the race server. He does receive the end-of-line penalty for doing so, so he'll start at the back here on this restart. Well, let's watch and see on this time by. I expect to see everyone up front stay out. They just pitted about 5, maybe 6 laps ago. Does anyone in the back get, whoa, Ted faked him out. I thought that was a little risky. I was like, what are we doing? Okay, Steve Loving, you're back in the field. That's not as much of a fake out as it was for the front drivers. But nice try. Here's Doug Evans. He thought that 2-tire call was not the right call, so he's going to come down. There's a couple others. I think I see Jacob Dunn back there, Zachary Burnt, Nick Seraph is back there. So a couple drivers in the back. And I don't mind this, by the way, Lucas. If you're in the back of the field when this caution comes out, why not take a swing and see what you can make happen here?
Yeah, it's something that I talked about a lot in Velo and SRA. If you're in the back of the field, you essentially lose almost nothing for taking 4 new tires and filling up your gas tank all the way. And while the drivers are probably okay on fuel at this point, just those 2 or 3 lap fresher tires, by the end of the race, that might be the difference in the end of the stint, and you just might be able to find a couple more positions as this race is coming to a close. So I 100% agree with that call, especially if you're already in the back and you have nothing to lose for it.
I agree. Well, you know, I teased this during our last caution. We're going to quickly do it. I know we're getting close to going back to green again. We're going to bring in Doug Evans into the Green Flag TV broadcast. But Doug, just want to get a quick comment. It felt like maybe that 2-tire call didn't work out the way you wanted.
It sure did. Sure did not. No, but I had nothing to lose. I was marred in the middle anyway, so I had to try something different for the first time ever.
So what's the plan the rest of the night? Just keep 4 tires on it and hope to go to the front?
try not to get crashed out by these guys back here.
Fair enough. Well, listen, I know we're one to go. We'll put you back down to your teammates. Best of luck, and maybe we'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
All right, that is Doug Evans, driver of that bright green Miracle Flow truck. Well, speaking of Miracle Flow, they're at the front and the back of the field. Got it bookended right now because up front it's still Bradley Holly. Has led all night long. He's got Lowendick, O'Brien, Kalen, and Evans up in the top 5. So a pretty great night so far for Team Miracle. We'll do that update in just a moment once we get back to green flag racing. Let's watch this restart. The pace truck's going to pull down. All night long it's been Holly getting the great jumps. Suspect it to be the same. And Barney the flagman waves the green flag.
And once again, Holly will lead them into turn 1. Ted Lowendick trying to close the door on James O'Brien. Once again, we have this battle between the 13, between the 38, fighting for that second position. That inside line is just, it looks like it's very, very hard. Sorry, that outside line just looks very, very hard for Ted Lowendick to defend on. He's having to really, really drive and push that car through turns 1 and 2 to keep the 38 behind him.
By the way, it's going to be a great night for Holly when the night is over, because Richard Regan Jr., who came into tonight's second in points, is not here. He will take a 0. That will be his drop in the points. This is the last week you can drop a race, so Regan will get minimal points after a couple of bad finishes this season. So you'd have to think it's going to be down to Holly and others for the championship title. But Holly walks away for the moment through the field. Nick Schwartz is under attack. He's trying to also attack Trace Paderni and also get up there with Steve Loving as Paderni got close to that 171.
Yeah, it all looks very scary. You know, noses to quarter panels, you know, especially with net kill, those can so often involve in a car going around. And from the way we're seeing it from these different camera angles iRacing's offer of, it's looking so close every single time.
It does. Well, you know what we should do right now when we have a moment of green flag racing? We should go ahead and get in our Miracle Flow team update. It's a great update tonight, and it starts up front with the driver of the 184 and Bradley Holly. That purple machine has dominated this track all night long. Has led every lap so far, and it wants to do it again. He qualified up front. He's run up front. He has the perfect night so far. We'll interrupt the update right now because we're under caution. We'll come back to our update under caution. First, let's find out what may have happened to put us under the yellow flag.
The world is not wanting us to do this Miracle Flow race update right now, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, world's doing it under caution. I'll make it work. Don't you worry about that. Don't you worry. We'll make it fit with that square peg, round hole. No issue around here, buddy. Well, let's see what may have happened. Waiting for the replay machine to load up and find the cause of the caution. And the pace car has caught up and crabbed the field. Let's watch the replays between Trace Paderni and the black and yellow Tabula Rasa esports machine with Flo Doms. They get close there, and Doms then doesn't lift Paderni on around up the track. And I mean, kind of surprised, kind of not. I mean, no wreck there, but when you spin up across a field of cars, Lucas, you understand why it's a caution at the same time.
Yeah, when iRacing catches a car in a 2X or a 4X or a car that's just sliding not where it should be, and cars behind are approaching at racing speed, that is the 2 check marks that it uses to throw out a caution. You see there's a lot of cars behind him. So iRacing instantly threw out that caution, had all those guys slow down so that no one ARCA braked him, was still fighting for position.
Well, let's do this. While we're under caution, we're just going to go ahead and do the Miracle Flow team update. I'm going to get it in there so we make sure we make it happen. So we started with Bradley Holly up front all night, is led, having a perfect night so far. Minus getting the fastest lap, which belongs to P2 and Ted Lowendick. Right now, Brad is having the perfect points night. So for the man who loves to collect Lego sets in the background, tonight he wants to collect his second checkered flag here in Milwaukee. Move back not that far in the field. You'll find Jeff Evans in that white 51 truck. And Jeff having a pretty solid night of his own up here in P6. Has been in battles all night long with Mark Kalin, with Trace Paderni, with Brett Adams, and more. So a great night for the painter from Team Miracle Flow. Going to move back through the field a little further to our next truck. That's the 171, Nicholas Schwartz. He is up a bunch of spots on the night. He's up 22 spots on the evening. So a great run for the 171. Making some strategy calls and making it happen. And lastly, Doug Evans, the driver we talked to. And he is having the night. Maybe he hopes it gets better as this night goes on. Tried the 2 tires. It just didn't work. Now, Lucas, I bet you didn't know that Miracle Flow is more than hair care. It is built for the bold. Founded in Rochester, New York back in 2015, Miracle Flow was created to elevate both your look and your lifestyle. They're made in the USA and crafted for real performance. It is trusted by those who show up ready, whether it's a game night or a timeout with the friends. No shortcuts, no gimmicks, just results. Miracle Flow, because your flow isn't just style, it's a statement. I love that line, no shortcuts, no gimmicks, no results. That, I think, describes Bradley Holly's race all night long. Well, Lucas, here we go. Pace truck is down once again. Holly takes the green flag. He gets the jump. And right now, looking at the inside, a new driver up here, by the way. That's Mark Kalin to the inside. He's up to P2. He gets around Lowendick. He wants to see if he can run down Bradley Holly.
Yeah, we must not have caught it, but he probably got a good amount of positions right as that caution was thrown. As we were focused on the caution, Mark Kalin probably found some good momentum. And once again, Ted Lowendick, starting in second on that outside line, has to fight for his life to keep that position. And once again, on this occasion, he's not going to be able to hold it off, just like what happened in that very first restart, everything all the way back to the beginning of the race. But Mark Kalin, now the surprise appearance in the second, might just look to take on Brad Hawley with 15 minutes going on to the race.
Oh, speaking of fighting, has happened in the back of the track car down in the grass. That, I believe, to be Evan Williams. It is. That is Evan Williams. He got down there, and I don't think it was alone. So we'll get another look at that in just a moment. But Evan Williams keeps it, green flag racing, but through the grass and likely a torn up truck. Watch it here on the replay. Gets in the back of Flo Doms, checks it up, and they start beating and banging. Matt Gagnon barely got around as Doug Rice and others. And Evan Williams to the back of the field.
Yeah, it looks like I believe it was Doms, correct? Yes, was a little bit slow. Didn't the car behind just didn't expect it. Just a little bit of contact, and in these trucks, they're so light, have so much horsepower. The tiniest bit of contact really throws you out of shape, out of whack. And it's very, very hard to save. So great stuff from both drivers to keep their car straight in the end, but we have a caution.
Yep. Oh, there's Jacob Dunn. Well, that's easy to see what this caution's for. It's going to be the truck turned around on the front straight. Jacob Dunn in the 3 truck right there on the inside wall. And he sees a little frustrated when I burned it out. It's kind of let out a little bit of frustration here. Watch what's going to be for the caution. It'll be Zach Williams behind him. The teammates in front of me. He just loops it off of the corner both ways. Zach Williams almost looped it as well. And then Dunn got, I think, tapped maybe by Kyle Dewey. That was just a little... That was that was minor compared to what already happened to the truck. So Jacob Dunn likely pretty hurt here.
Yeah, and with this race coming to conclusion with only, I believe, with only 41 laps to go, 13 minutes left in the race, these drivers, they're getting antsy. They're going to want to start pushing their cars, pushing their fresh new tires. A lot of them are going to be pushing their rears, especially on the exit. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of cautions in the closing laps of these races.
Well, maybe not surprised, but I know these drivers are hoping that's not the case. A pretty great race of green flag racing so far with about 13 and a half minutes to go. So come on around here, and I think let's see if we can grab one more driver this evening and have a conversation. You know what? Let's do this. Is he available? He is available. We're just going to go ahead and welcome in the driver who was the cause of the last caution. We'll get some live thoughts here. We're going to go and welcome Jacob Dunn up into the broadcast booth. Jacob, what happened?
Well, I got it a little bit loose on corner exit, and then when I went to save it, my wheel uncalibrated, so I'm about a little over 90 degrees to the left right now.
That sounds more uncalibrated than what you were the first time.
Yeah, I've been a little uncalibrated this whole race, but I was trying to fix the damage as we went and make it a little bit better. And, we drove up from 20th to 12th on that first run, and just hadn't been our night since.
All right, buddy. Well, listen, good luck the rest of the race. See what that truck fixed up, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right, there's Jacob Dunn. Says he's a little uncalibrated, and the jokes write themselves sometimes. We'll put Jacob back down here before I make fun of him, but there we go.
But yeah, I want to talk about Doug Evans one more time, because we talked about taking those 2 tires was going to be a very risky strategy. And we heard from that interview, very glad we got to talk to him. We heard from that interview, he essentially said, or at least he thought, that he had nothing to lose. And when you believe that, when that is in your mind, risks like that, they're willing to take. So I think it's really cool that we got to talk to him, got to, see through his mind's process there on why he took that risk.
All right, well, what we're going to do this time is a bit of a different restart here. We're going to give you a different perspective. What we're going to do is Lucas and I are going to sit back. We're going to be fans just like you. We're going to ride on board with Ted Lowendick back in that start in P3 on the inside, a different spot for him. It's going to be Holly, Kalen, Lowendick, Adams, O'Brien, your top 5, Evans, and more on back. But we're going to sit back. We're going to ride on board. We're going to watch this restart, and we're going to feel the noise on Green Flag TV. Well, we felt the noise for about a lap or so, but the caution's back out already. Mike Timmer, Nick Seraph, I believe is what we're going to see on this replay involved in this latest caution. Wait for the replay machine to spool itself up. We'll take a look and see what may have caused us to be under caution again at the Milwaukee Mile. Here it is on track. Seraph just got loose off the front end of Nick Byer, got down into Timmer, and then Lucas from there. All hell broke loose.
Yeah, these drivers are really getting racy now. This is coming to a conclusion. 10 minutes left on that clock. They're pushing for every single inch, every single position they can gain. They're pushing the cars to the absolute limit. They're pushing each other to the absolute limit, and that is going to cause accident.
Kind of got the impression there from watching that in the moment, Lucas, maybe that Seraph didn't know they were 3 wide.
Yeah, that's a big one as well. iRacing does have the spotter that tells you you're 3 wide, but all the time it's not very correct, and sometimes it even comes a bit late. And of course, you don't have rear view mirrors that see miles behind you, so knowing you're 3 wide is very difficult sometimes. And yeah, the car up top, I don't know actually, because
yeah, I watched that view and I changed my opinion. Yeah, you're right. That's watching that view, it makes it look like Seraph did know, and that maybe he had nothing you could do about it. So a couple cars down pit road. Nicholas Seraph, Kyle Dewey come down. He's getting some damage fixed. I'd be surprised if we didn't see Jacob Dunn back down pit road. And so now the problem here, Lucas, if it was a number of laps race, you could probably feel more comfortable saying, hey, it's a late race. Let me come down and fix some damage, take some tires, and take a swing at it. But in a timed race where you don't quite know how many laps you have left, the problem is if you come down now in pits, you may never get a chance to make use of those new tools.
Yeah, not only a timed race, you don't know how many laps are left. A time race that doesn't have overtime as well. Of course, this league doesn't do green, white, checkered, and the 3s can get the EOL on that occasion. But yeah, taking tires here. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Although having those new tires is going to make you quicker, and since everyone's bunched up, you're going to be able to gain a lot of positions. The question is, you're right there, do I even have time to gain the positions that I will lose from pitting?
Yeah. That 3 car for Jacob Dunn, that's an EOL, I believe it to be for a lucky dog penalty. So good news back in the lead lap, bad news end of line. Well, at the front of the line, however, it's Bradley Holly. He's up here again. Kalen, Lowendick, Adams, Evans, and more. Last time we saw Ted Lowendick really wiggle that truck around, Lucas, he seemed to have some problems in the last restart. See if he can clean them up here and have a better run.
Yeah, and as they go away here, Brad Hawley does lead them to the green. Once again, gets a great start because he is able to control the restart. But Yeah, those heat cycles, heating them up by going racing, cooling them back down by with a caution, heating them up, cooling them down. That really puts wear into the tire. They don't appreciate all of the warmth and coolness being put into them. You can imagine that if you're going back and forth, you probably won't feel very comfortable either. And these drivers' tires are going to start feeling it, especially drivers like Low and Dick that have been fighting for the positions.
Well, hold on,
race.
Doug Evans. And we're cautioned. Yep. He got spun around, I'm pretty sure. I thought I saw a truck on the back end of Evans as he was going around. Now the question is, was Evans around first and the truck hit second? It's like a, what came first, chicken and egg kind of conversation, what we might be looking at here. But let's wait and see what happened. I agree, though, right now, we're going to come back to that in just a moment here. Here's Doug Evans, and he's going to get some assistance from that Prophet Python truck.
Yeah, it just looked like Evan Williams didn't expect Doug Evans to have so little speed coming off the corner, just taps him on the bumper and spins him around.
So here's a look from Evan Williams. You'll see it right there. He's just going to get to the back of Doug Evans right about there. And, yep, on around. You can make a couple arguments there, Lucas. You can say, hey, we don't bump draft at Milwaukee. You could also say, hey, if you're going to bump draft, you do it in the center of the truck, darn it. You don't bump draft out the corner of a truck.
Yeah, that's, if I'm honest, I don't want to say it bluntly, bit of a mistake there from Evan Williams.
Yeah.
Really got to be watching the car ahead. Really got to be checking their speed, monitoring, your place or your progress to them. How close are you approaching their bumper? And a huge fake out. I bet we all got faked at home. That second place would pit this late in the race.
But I don't think you're wrong for using the word mistake. I mean, Evans did go ahead and claim the wreck. That's why he received an end-of-line penalty. So he knows it's a mistake. So I don't think you're out of line for using that word. But I want to come back to the point you made under green while we were there about hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. It does affect the tires, but I think it affects more is the drivers right now. Because right now we're going stop and go. And it sort of relates to what you said, hot and cold, right? So you get going for a lap and a half, you get all amped up, you kind of get in that zone, and then it slows back down, and it goes back up. And what can happen here is a driver can lose focus, right? You can kind of get in a mood, you can get frustrated, you can lose focus, you can sort of let something happen. And boy, oh boy, I would think this likely is our last restart of the night, most likely. We're going to restart with under 4 minutes to go, likely under 3 minutes to go here. So this is it. So you have to be locked in right here. If you break focus and you lose some spots, there is no time to get them back.
Yeah, I love how you've mentioned the word of the day that I self-declared like halfway through the race, focus. Yeah, at least for me, I'm one that overthinks a lot, and I'm sure a lot of the drivers in the field are too. And when you're under these cautions, you're really thinking about what you can do, and you're just essentially overthinking. You're thinking about too much, right? There's so many thoughts going through your head. But when you get that green flag racing, when you're able to lock in, really get your focus perfectly where you want it, that is when you can perform at your peak. But since these cautions keep coming so quickly and so often, these drivers are going to have a tough time getting into that mindset, getting into that flow rhythm that was even mentioned in the Formula One movie, if you guys saw that over the summer. So it really is about how quickly these drivers can get locked in and how many positions they can make up in this last 3.5 minutes of racing.
Locked in is what you need to be right now. We're going to go green with about 3.5 minutes. As Lucas said, it is still Bradley Holly up front. Mark Kalen's Ted Lowendick, Brett Adams, Jeff Evans. Let's see what happens. Can anyone pass Bradley Holly? Does he claim his second victory, or does something else happen? Let's find out as we go green flag racing. Well, quickly Holly gets up there and gets the front. However, Kalen kept a pretty good gap right there. Maybe not the jump we've seen Holly have all night. Kalen's up to his outside. He wants to get to him about a turn number 2. It's right now it is Holly, Kalen, Lowendick, and others down the back straight. Single file most of the field. You see a couple trying to jump out of line. Kalen right now wants to dig it in. He's going to have to try to dig deep any moment now. Point of no return. Either caution flag or checkered flag. The next one ends the race.
And Derrick, I don't know if you caught that. We were 4 wide there.
I did not see the 4. I saw the 3. And right now, there are 2 because Ted Lowendick wants his spot back. It's Lowendick and it's Kalen. What it is great news for Bradley Holly, however, because the more these guys fight, Lucas, the more likely Brad can pull away.
The best thing I can see in my rearview mirror as the car in first place is watching second and third fight. Gives you time to extend that gap with very little pressure, because as those two cars are fighting, they're slowing each other down. They're not focused on you. Gives you a lot of time to pull that gap out.
That's a purple car in the back. That's Jacob Dunn and Evan Williams. I think they were involved in an incident. We're going to stay green. We're going to go back to the front of the field. We'll come back and see if we can find the replay of that later. Bradley Holly's pulling away. It's about 2 minutes on the clock. Likely 3 to 4 laps to go at the line. Holly just has to now stay focused. Here's the word. Watch this. There's Evan Williams. That's Nick Byer up top. Evan Williams on through. He gets loose. He gets in the front of Jacob Dunn. Minor incident. We'll stay green. So right now, Ted Lowendick is the car. He wants to run down Bradley Holly. Last time by, Ted Lowendick was just on pace. 1/1000th of a second difference between first and second place.
Yeah, this is going to be close. Lowendick probably has the pace here to catch up. You know, he has that draft, and he just might be able to close that gap to the 184 machine, where within the next minute and a half, we probably can see a fight for the lead here very shortly.
All right, now you look at the bottom of your screen at those lap times. Red is bad for Ted. That means he's losing time. If you see that SimGamingExpo green, that means Teddy gained time. But for the past 3 laps, Brad just slightly faster, starting to pull away here. Right about 1 minute to go at this point in the race. So we'll come on around here. We'll take 2 to go this time by.
As you see, fights happening all up and down the field. This is between 5th and 6th, the 38 and the 51 car. Looks like James O'Brien will win out on that occasion. I don't know if that was defending or getting past the 51 car of Jeff Evans, but you can really see that these drivers are trying to push their cars to the freaking limit here with only 40 seconds left to go.
Yeah, the limit is, I think, the best word to use right now. The limit right now is going to be 1 lap to go. That's the limit left in this race, and it's Bradley Holly. Lowendick is closing. Look at that gap, got a little bit closer. Smoke on the front straight, all is good. No caution. White flag. All bets are off. We're going around one more time here at the Milwaukee Mile. Can Lowendick close the gap? Now down to about 0.2 of a second. Down the back straight for the final time, Lucas.
Send it. That's all I'm thinking in my head right now. Like, come on, Lowendick. Give us the battle we all want so badly.
Oh, he thought he was going to do it. He dipped to the inside for a second and went back out. Tried to dig it deep. He got closer, but it's not close enough. For the second time in his PSR career, part of the SimGamingExpo Truck Series, Bradley Holly wins at Milwaukee.
Yeah, but only by 0.16 of a second. Ted Lowendick will come in second with Mark Kalin rounding out the podium in third.
Couple of tight battles coming down the line right there. So Zachary Burnt and Doug Evans were fighting pretty hard. And I believe now everyone has crossed the finish line. Well, Bradley Holly is going to come on through in that 184 truck. We'll watch him burn it down and celebrate his victory here. Ted Lowendick with a little bit of a congratulations bump. A bump of love and respect for a fellow teammate. There's Mark Kalin with the same. And Bradley Holly is ready to celebrate in Wisconsin. Driver the 184 takes his...
A race that's been Holly and Lowendick for so much of it. It's fitting to see those two, you know, battle it out in the last lap, you know, give themselves a congratulations bump. Really shows how much these drivers respect each other.
And good news for Bradley Holly, unlike last week, does not back it in the wall during the burnout. So a good, clean photo for Jeff Evans and Whataback Racing for their social media accounts this week. Now here's become the tradition. How far can we burn it out? Oh, not very far for Bradley Holly. He already loops it around, and he went for more style than distance, I guess.
I mean, hey, I love donuts too, so, you know, donuts are great to look at. They're also great to eat.
They are great to eat as well. So there comes Nick Hunter. He's going to say his congrats to Bradley Holly, and I think with that, we can take a look at tonight's unofficial results. Up front, Bradley Holly, the man who led every lap tonight, wins the race by over a tenth, almost 0.2 of a second over Ted Lowendick. Mark Kalin comes back in third to Brett Adams and James O'Brien, your top 5. Jeff Evans, James Morgan, Steve Loving, Matt Scherf, and Flo Doms in your top 10.
Yeah, and then coming in 11th will be Doug Rice, in 12th, Nicholas Schwartz, and then Brandon Walter, Matt Gagnon, Nicholas Acosta, Nicholas Saraf, and 17th will be Nick Hunter, Dustin Bumgarner, Kyle Dewey, and rounding our top 20 is Jacob Watson.
By the way, these are cars all still on the lead lap back through 21st. It's going to be Stacy Hunter in 21st, Zach Williams, Mike Toomer, Zachary Burnt, and Doug Evans through 25. Nick Byer, Trace Paderni, Jacob Dunn, and Evan Williams, 29th. All those cars finished on the lead lap. And then Brian Tope, your first car, back in P30, multiple laps down. And then Blaine Adams and Thomas Sink round out a 32 truck field. That's a look top to bottom at tonight's unofficial results. Well, I think now it's time to kick into our Regan Bogue Motorsports post-race show. Speed is just the starting point, but success is built through discipline, focus, and development at Regan Bogue Motorsports. Their iRacing coaching is built to develop winners through one-on-one coaching. The focus is on the fundamentals that turn fast drivers into champions via smart racecraft, disciplined decision-making, and pressure-proof performance. This is not about quick fixes. It's about building a foundation for lasting success. Regan Bogue Motorsports, developed for wins, built for championship. Well, what I feel comfortable saying, we're still got a race left in the season, but the man built for a championship is the winner tonight. Came into tonight first in points, led every lap this evening, and won. Bradley Holly, that's an impressive run.
Yeah, it was good for the first 100 laps, and then they decided to start just hitting each other.
Well, up front for you, that was kind of good news because it felt like passing was a premium, so it really meant you could have those great restarts and just pull away from the field.
Yeah, it was all about saving the tires. I was just telling my guys, I was driving this track like I did Watkins Glen, backing up my corners, letting it roll center, and slowly getting back in the gas to get that drive out, and it helped me pull leads in the long runs, and then we had all those short runs at the end.
Well, you came into tonight first in the points. Richard Regan not racing, Steve Baker not racing, so I feel like it's safe to say that Bradley Holly, you might be our Season 2 champion. How does that feel?
Good. I mean, to an extent, I'd rather have Richard here racing and fight it out, but things happen, and hope everything's okay with him, and we can have some fun next week at Darlington. Right?
So next week, Darlington, we've sort of unofficially themed it College Football Week for Premier Sim Racing. Do you want to give us a preview of what college will appear on Bradley Holly's truck?
I'm going to be Baylor. My wife went to Baylor, and I didn't go to college because I was too lazy. So I decided to support my wife and run her school, and hopefully it looks good out on track, and we can have some good racing next week.
Gotta be honest, I was kind of hoping you were going to run those. As much as I hate the orange color, I thought you were going to run the orange color against this tournament, Mark Kalin, but no, you've switched it up on me.
Yeah, Colton's running, I think, the Tennessee scheme, so I didn't want to have two of the same team on track, so I decided to go with Baylor.
Fair enough. Well, listen, Brad, it was a pleasure watching your race. Great win tonight, and we'll see you next week at Darlington for the season finale.
Thank you very much.
That is Bradley Holly coming home at P1. And now I believe that Lucas Moody has caught up with P2, the man who will represent Ohio State next week. That's Ted Lowendick.
Hey, guys.
Yes. How's it going? Lucky number 13. I think it's really cool. That's also the number I race under, just quick fun fact. But yeah, we saw you up there in the field for a lot of that race. Talk us through those restarts, because those looked very, very tricky out there today.
Yeah, it helps having a teammate in front of you, because they can kind of give you the heads up. But also you got to be careful because you can't you can't beat the leader to the line. So even though they kind of say, hey, we're gonna go early in the box or we're gonna go late, you still can't jump it, or you'll get a black flag. So yeah, it's fun. It's always scary because you don't know if the cars behind you are gonna drive it in deeper than you are. And thankfully we made it through. There was one where I thought we were all gonna wreck, but we made it through it.
Yeah, and so you mentioned that even though it was your teammate Bradley Holly in front, on that last lap, did you think of any shenanigans, any dive bombs you might have sent into 3 or turn 1 maybe?
So I tried to get the best run I could off of 2, and then I drove it in kind of deep, thinking that he was going to drive it in deeper to block off any deep move that I did and maybe run a little high, and then I could get a run and we try to drag race. But Brad's too good to fall for that kind of stuff. So, but I mean, it was good team points, good for Brad in the championship. I think I held on to the fastest lap for the race, so we'll take that. I think I stole it from Brad, so I at least beat him on that.
Yeah, and we love to see the respect from teammates. And my final question, Derrick hinted about it a little bit earlier. Next week, since it's the first week of college football, you'll be representing Ohio State University. I am actually from Cincinnati, so fairly close to that. So Ohio represent. Talk us through why you picked that college.
Oh, I grew up in Ohio. Actually grew up in a town, Zanesville, about an hour east of Columbus. I live in Ohio still, actually in a suburb of Columbus. And I've always been a Buckeye fan, whether it's my fandom has kind of shrunk a little bit over the years. Still root for them to do well, and last year was pretty good for us with the whole championship and stuff. So, but yeah, I just my mom's birthday was yesterday, so happy birthday to my mom. I know they watch every week and they enjoy you guys. So thank you for having great broadcasts and making it fun for everybody that's watching.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And speaking of moms, thank you to all the moms out there. They do so much work for us when we're childs, and we love you all. We love all the moms in the world. But that was the 13 car of Ted Lowe and Dick. Thank you so much for joining us. And I believe, Derrick, you are by our third place finisher.
We'll say hello to Mark Kenneth for also saying, again, on our own, happy birthday to Mrs. Kalen. But now we talked to the driver who finished third at one point, had a great run all night long, actually. Was up to P2 at one point. Mark, that was an amazing run.
Something like that. It definitely was not as good as I had expected from myself. But, yeah, I mean, I can't be mad about a P3. Brad and Ted definitely had the long run pace over me. I felt like I was even on the short run, but yeah, it's so hard to try and pass on a little bit used up tires. And then, as I'm sure y'all saw, that first caution was caused by yours truly, and just got on the throttle a little too hard and looped around. Got very lucky not to hit that inside wall.
Well, next week we go to the track, some call Too Tough to Tame, Darlington Raceway. Now, I know sometimes when we come to these tracks that are what I call the classic NASCAR tracks, we tend to call these Mark Kalen tracks. You seem to show up and do well at these tough race tracks. Are you looking forward to next week?
Absolutely not. So I would agree with the classic tracks being more my forte. This one is probably not one of them. I'm definitely going to earn a few Darlington stripes. And with the incident this evening bringing out the yellow, I will have to start from the back of the pack, so that's going to be a tough challenge in itself, because some of these guys, they're not only tough to pass, they're terrifying to pass. So, and I mean that with the most love I can possibly give, because these guys are.
Switzerland. Thank you, Switzerland, for the nice answer there. Go ahead.
But no, it's going to be a very tall mountain to climb, and we'll just have to play it by ear and see how the runs go, and if any cautions come out, and see how far I can get up through the field.
All right, well, we talked with the other two drivers tonight. Of course, next week we've dubbed to be College Football Week or College Week here for Premier Sim Racing to coincide with Week 0 and Week 1 of college football. So, Mark Kalen, I think I know the answer already, but who is Mark Kalen putting on his truck for College Football Week?
Well, I'm going to have to go with the University of Kentucky.
Do they play college football? I've never seen. Do they win in college football?
They do. They do. Not as often as Alabama or Georgia, but they do have some moments.
Fair enough. Well, listen, it was a pleasure watching the race. We'll be looking forward to that.
Hold on. How come you didn't ask about basketball? Is that because you already know?
Oh, I know hey, back in the 90s when I was a kid, they were great at basketball. I know that. The college, UNC Duke era is, and that they still do well. But yeah, it's
back in the 90s. They're still the top dogs in basketball.
Not the top dogs, might be overstating it a little bit. The top dogs. Listen to you. Well, our producer Dustin Ollis, the Tennessee native, is threatening to mute me if I don't stop this college talk. So, Mark, great job tonight. Great job on P3, and we'll see you next week at Darlington.
Thank you guys. Real quick, just want to shout out my wife for supporting me, and Solpec Precision and Abruzzi for sponsoring the truck, and all the league sponsors, Window Nation and Profit Python and SimGamingExpo. But yeah, thanks guys. Good broadcast tonight, and see y'all next week, hopefully for an interview.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. That is Mark Kaling coming home, P3, and that will wrap up our podium interviews for the evening. Well, Lucas, a lot of what we thought was going to be tough racing, tough passing, some fast trucks, and great 75 minutes of racing is what occurred tonight.
Yeah, we saw a lot of cautions, even around a track that, you know, overtaking is a premium. We did see a lot of side-by-side action, and of course, we got the great college talk at the end there. And I see you asking in chats. I am actually Ball State University. So,
That's right,
you know,
you're
you guys
Ball
are having
State.
the
Sky
beef
is-
between OSU.
Sky is OU.
and
That's right.
UK.
Yeah, I got my commentator
Yes.
backwards. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sky goes to Oklahoma University. We actually raced against each other in the collegiate league that we run in, so that's very fun. But I got a little bit jealous hearing you guys talk about all of the good sports teams. Ball State, we're not really known for our sports teams. You know, great esports program, like top of the nation. But when it comes to basketball, when it comes to football, we're kind of out of the conversation.
Kind of out of the conversation. What's known for great racing is Darlington Track. Too Tough to Tame, the Lady in Black, or many other nicknames has earned over the years. It will host the Season 2 finale 1 week from tonight, August 27th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Myself, Evan Posocco, on the call for the Season 2 finale. Stay tuned for post-race coverage. We'll take you over to the Beer League. They're running the Super Formula Light cars over at COTA, Circuit of the Americas. Take you over there with Nolan Rimple and Finn Accini coming up next. Once again, congrats to Bradley Holly for winning tonight's race. For the Volunteers fan of Dustin Ollis, for the Ball State alum of Lucas Moody, I am the Ohio State National Champion Buckeye fan of Derrick Watson. Say so long and good night from Milwaukee.